Last of all, Húrin stood alone. Then he cast aside his shield and wielded an axe two-handed, and it is sung that the axe smoked in the black blood of the troll guard of Gothmog until it withered. And each time he slew, Húrin cried, Aure and Tuluva, day shall come again. 70 times he uttered that cry. But they took him at last alive, by the command of Morgoth. For the orcs grappled him with their hands, which still clung to him though he hewed off their arms. And even as their numbers were renewed, until he fell buried beneath them, then Gothmog bound him, and dragged him to Angband with mockery. What up, guys? Welcome back to Keep on Tolkien. This is episode 11. Today, we're doing another character profile.
Today, we're going to be talking about Túrin Turambar. And we are so excited.
Oh, so excited. This is Danny's favorite character / favorite story in all of Tolkien.
When we first started talking about putting the podcast together, like, this is one of the things we envisioned talking about. This is one of the things we were so excited to talk about.
Because this story, guys, is so sad. It's so sad, but it's also so fucking good. It's beautiful, and it's tragedy. It's super sad, and we're going to get into it.
Yeah, so don't mistake in our excited tones. This is an extremely sad story. It's tragedy.
It's definitely the saddest in all of Tolkien.
Today we thought we'd throw in an audience member with us. We got our good friend Trevor here from Gamer Radio. He's been with us a couple times, actually.
What up, Trevor?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me again.
Hell yeah. Anytime.
Good to be here.
He's here to witness the sadness with us.
He's here to... So we're doing a little bit of an experiment here in that Trevor has no idea what we're going to be talking about today. And he's gonna listen to the story and react to it in real time. It'll be great.
I'm excited.
Good.
You guys keep saying it's going to be so sad, and
it's very sad. It's we originally talked about doing a drinking game. We've had a few drinks tonight.
Yeah, we thought it would be appropriate to get a little bit drunk for this episode.
So yeah, we've killed almost a whole bottle of tequila within like 5 people. So it's not too much, but we've had a few. Anyway, yeah, we decided to do that because it's a little sad.
So we got to drown our feelings before we feel them?
Yeah, well,
right, exactly.
Yeah, we had to get a little buzz going before we started talking about this tragedy. And actually, we thought it was only appropriate. One of the things that we're drinking here is called Strongbow. Strongbow cider.
And that'll make sense.
For all your sad nights.
Yeah, for all your sad nights, Strongbow cider. And it'll be even sadder later on in the story. You'll understand why we're drinking Strongbow.
So, like we said, this episode is going to be about Túrin Turambar. Now, for those who have been keeping up, this is the second of the 3 main tales of the First Age.
Righto.
So the first one being Beren and Luthien, that was the love story, and the second being this one here. It's technically, the story is called The Children of Húrin. We're kind of doing a character profile on the main character, Túrin Turambar.
Can I try to say that real quick?
Do it.
Yes.
Was it Túrin Turambar?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Turambar.
Turambar.
Okay.
That means Master of Doom in the High Elven speech.
Oh, Master of Doom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can see where this sadness is going to go.
So, Túrin is, in fact, the son of Húrin, which is why the story is called The Children of Húrin, because it's basically about what happens to the children of Húrin, being Túrin, and his sister Nienor.
Yeah, and Húrin, we heard from a little bit in that excerpt there, had a pretty badass moment.
Yeah, Húrin the father. So, really, to give good context for this story, we've got to start out during one of the worst battles that Beleriand has ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And that is called the Nirnaeth.
Well, now, what do you mean by the worst battles?
Well, there's been, how many? Were there 5 major battles or 6?
This is the 5th battle, so 6.
Yeah, so this is the 5th of 6 major battles that happened in Beleriand.
And it's definitely the one where it turns out the worst for the good guys.
Yes, this is the one that is the absolute worst. This is an absolute total loss for the good guys.
And yeah, Beleriand is never the same afterward.
Each of these battles is against Melkor or Morgoth. It's basically elves and men versus Morgoth trying to fend him off. But this is basically the one where Morgoth really, really wins. This is Morgoth's major win after the Nirnaeth, which actually means is the Battle of Unnumbered Tears.
Yeah, Nirnaeth Arnoediad. Yeah, it means Battle of Unnumbered Tears.
This is where Morgoth really gets his major win, and he almost controls all of Beleriand after this battle.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Okay, so you said it's elves and men versus Morgoth.
Actually, elves, men, and
dwarves. Dwarves are in this one.
So who does Morgoth have backing his ranks?
So he's got orcs. He's got
orcs plus a shitload of evil men.
He's got orcs. He's got some evil men that he actually got to double cross the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
So he turned them.
He turned them, yeah, and that was one of the reasons why he won the battle. He got some of the men who was on the good side to turn on them.
Mid-fight?
Yeah, mid-fight.
They
dude.
They went
Backstabbing
into the
bastards.
battle, pretending to be part of the alliance of elves and men and dwarves, and then they just turned on him, and it was horrible. And then he's also got, like I said, orcs. He's got trolls. He's got multiple Balrogs, like Balrogs and
Balrogs?
Balrogs,
Seriously?
plural.
So yeah, you're
And
familiar
dragons.
with Balrog.
How are elves and men even supposed to stand up to one Balrog?
Dude, elves and shit kill Balrogs all the time.
Okay. So
That's
all right.
how badass elves of the first
I
age
wouldn't
are.
say all the time, but
it has happened.
It's been
we'll
known to
say.
happen.
Yeah, it's not like
It's,
an
it's
all
a
the time
regular
thing.
occurrence.
It has happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, the Nirnaeth, like we said, this is one of the 5th major battles. It is basically the last major battle that elves and men and dwarves ever try to take part in. They
Right.
utterly lose after this, and Morgoth wins, and he controls all of northern Beleriand, and it's really not good. The result of this battle is absolute slaughter. We lose a host of main characters.
Yeah.
This story being the Children of Húrin, part of this battle obviously includes Húrin and his brother Huor.
Where they're leading up the House of Hador.
And
men
they're
of Dorloman.
yes, so these are one of the few times we're actually talking about men in the First Age. Mostly in the First Age we're talking about elves, but this battle they got everyone together: dwarves, men, elves, and yes, we had Huor and Húrin leading the House of Hador in this battle. And like we said, there was an utter loss. At one point, Morgoth releases his reserves, which is just trolls, Balrogs, dragons, and just utterly destroys the battlefield.
So would you really call that reserves, or is that like...
No, they had them in reserve.
It was reserves. It started off as just orcs.
The whole point was
this
that
is like the cavalry, though, right? I mean, it's the deal breaker.
Well, see, the whole point was like after the last battle, there was kind of like an uneasy peace. I guess you could say, like, shit had happened, but then like there wasn't much going on.
Peace between who?
Between elves and Morgoth, essentially.
But I mean, not necessarily peace. There's just a lack of action.
Yeah, lack of activity.
A lull?
A
Yeah,
lull.
a bit of a
So
lull.
this is the point when Maedhros, who's one of the eldest sons of Feanor, he decides that we got enough people, we can get together now, and we're going to take this motherfucker out.
He's actually inspired by the events of
Beren
Beren and
and
Luthien, because in the story of Beren and Luthien, if you guys have been listening to our last episode, Beren and Luthien actually are the only characters to make it to Angband, into
They go
Angband,
inside of Angband.
and they fucking put him to sleep and steal a Silmaril right out of his crown. So that right there is kind of like proving, hey,
How did they put him to sleep?
well, Luthien does a magic sleep spell. She sings and dances more so than she's ever done in her life, in an enchantment that puts everyone in the throne room to sleep, including Morgoth.
Is she an elf?
You should listen to that
you should
episode.
listen to our
Okay.
last
Yeah.
episode. 'cause
Okay.
Yeah. So
We're-
anyway, that's what inspires them to put together this team, because they see that Morgoth is not untouchable.
Mhm.
So that's what leads us, but ultimately it leads them to a complete and utter defeat. The men of Dorloman that are part of this battle, all of the men that take place in the battle are killed. All of the men are destroyed, except for Húrin.
Except for Húrin.
Húrin
Yeah.
is taken
Well,
alive.
damn, what does that say about their honor and commitment, though? If none of them ran away, they
well-
all died?
Well, what does that say about Húrin? Like Like,
Right.
like,
He killed 70 enemies, including...
well, 70 just after having cried that. Like, so he killed a shitload
Well,
more
he
before
killed
that.
it every time that he swung it, and he killed someone every time. He's killed 70 orcs and
Swinging what?
trolls, a double-sided axe that he stole from one of the troll guards.
He's killing them with their own weapons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fight fire with
Literally,
fire.
he got buried in dead bodies. Like, they couldn't get him.
The caustic blood of the trolls had withered away the blade of the axe by the time he was done.
Jeez.
But this is all just leading up to the story we're trying to talk about. So this is
Right.
the battle that kind of precurses our story about Túrin Turambar. It is absolute tragic. There is absolute loss. Morgoth wins, destroys the men, sends the elves running, kills a lot of the elves. At one point, the Gondolindrum, the folks of
show up.
Gondolin, they show up. They've been hiding out this whole time. They're a secret city that nobody's really known. They're kind of like a last resort of elves that have been hiding out. And they come into this.
Does that have anything to do with Gondor?
No, not at
No.
all. Not in the slightest.
Just sounds similar.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And eventually, they realize that they're losing. So before the end, when things are really starting to go bad, Húrin and Huor try to sort of defend off the forces. So
They're essentially going to hold off the onslaught while the Gondolindrum escape.
Right. Because they know that it's important for the Gondolindrum to live through this, because obviously everyone else is getting slaughtered.
Because at one point, Huor says to Turgon, who they know each other, because they spent Huor and Húrin spent a little time in Gondolin, so they all know each other, and they all meet on the battlefield. So Fingon and Turgon, the brothers, meet each other. Huor and Húrin meet each other again, and they decide the men are going to hold off. The House of Hador is going to hold off the onslaught while Turgon escapes, because Huor actually says to him, Gondolin will be the last kingdom to stand against Morgoth. And so he's like, essentially, you got to get out of here. And then he also says, from your house and mine, a new hope for both kindreds will come.
Yeah, doesn't he say like a star of hope?
Yeah. And he says that
So he basically prophesizes.
he makes a prophecy, which we'll get into in some of our next episodes. So that's very important. So remember Huor's prophecy.
Huor prophesizes that the savior of elves and men will come from the Gondolindrum and the House of Huor. But, so after that, the Gondolindrum retreat back to Gondolin successfully, and then there is just utter defeat everywhere else. Huor, the brother of Húrin, dies. And all of the men, like we said, are killed that were fighting in this battle.
Yeah, all of the House of Hador is wiped out.
All of the House of Hador that was fighting in this battle is gone. Most of the other elves that were part of this, that were following, say, the Sons of Fëanor, who were part of this battle, they all fled, and it was there's a reason it's called the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. Afterwards, there was a mound of dead bodies that just became known as, there was a knoll. It's called Haud en Nirnaeth, the Hill of Tears. It's literally just a giant mound of bodies that rots on that field forever. And yes, so this is a pretty dark time. And like we said, Húrin is captured.
Captured alive.
Captured
Taken to
alive.
Angband.
Húrin, the guy with the children.
The guy with the children, yes.
Yeah.
So the story is generally called the Children of Húrin. So keep Húrin in mind. It's
Right.
about him and his children. So Gondolin is important to Morgoth. It is one of the last strongholds of Noldorian elves that he's trying to destroy but can't find. He knows that Húrin might know where it is, which is one of the reasons why he wants him alive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because Húrin and Huor spent some time there.
So did Húrin really only escape this battle unscathed because we need him alive?
No, Húrin they literally could not kill him.
yeah,
If they
Oh.
tried.
which we were talking earlier.
Húrin is the best fighter of men in the First Age.
But I mean, he's just that good.
Yes.
He's that good.
Yes, he's very good.
Jeez.
And
Like
what's
when they
even
took him in, dude, there were hands still attached to him that people like orcs had grabbed him and he cut off their fucking arms.
So he's like a modern day superhero.
yeah.
this
Húrin
regard.
is
aside from the
Yeah.
fact the men of the House of Hador are supposed to be massive dudes,
yeah. They're supposed
and
to be huge.
he was particularly small. He
to
was
the,
a very
to the
small
point where
guy.
he couldn't actually wear the dragon helm of Dorloman, the heir of his line.
It
was
just,
too big for him.
Flopped on his head.
yeah, yeah.
Turns around when you least expect it.
which is also kind of important. So he leaves that at home. So that's
Is that like
It's
magical
not-
in any way?
it's not captured with it. It's made by the dwarves, and it's really good at withstanding dragon fire.
It's not magical.
Oh,
though.
so it's just
Yeah.
incredibly durable.
yes, yeah,
Exactly.
good smithing, very
Okay.
good smithing.
Yeah.
But so ultimately, like we said, utter defeat. The elves have lost. The only kingdoms that still stand in Beleriand after this are Doriath, which is the Sindarin kingdom, far to the south. They try to keep out of all this stuff. They weren't even really part of this battle. Nargothrond, which is a Noldorian kingdom, but they also are kind of trying to keep to themselves.
Well, they were the reason why Doriath and Nargothrond didn't show up is because they were super heated at Caligorm and Curufin.
Yeah, if
the
you
two
listen to
sons
the
of
Baron and
Fëanor.
Luthien stuff that we were talking about, you'll understand why they didn't want to join Caligorm and Curufin's team. Those two are dicks.
Yeah, but a small group of Nargothrond elves did fight in the war, and they were led by Gwyndor.
But nonetheless, like we said, at the end, utter defeat. Húrin is taken captive into Angband to be questioned by Morgoth directly. And as you may imagine, Húrin's a pretty feisty guy. He's very small, but he's a hell of a fighter. They couldn't even kill him.
Does he have short man syndrome?
You might say that.
You might say that because he's way more ferocious than his brother, even, and his
But
brother's a normal size.
Is he ferocious just like in the terms of battle, or is he ferocious like in everything? Like,
Well, they just called him Túrin the Steadfast.
that totally doesn't imply that he could have short man syndrome.
He's stubborn.
He's just stubborn. Yeah.
He's
He's stubborn as
steadfast.
hell,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's stubborn as hell.
So Melkor tries to question him about the location of Gondolin, and essentially Húrin is just like, no, obviously I'm not going to tell you this. Why would I ever tell you this? You are Melkor, like, you would not honor your word, even if I tried. There's a quote, actually, from the Silmarillion that we wanted to read out to you, that it's a little bit of a dialogue. It's what Húrin says.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
How do you guys propose that Morgoth does his interrogations? Like, what methods do you think he uses? I'm sure it's not like dialogued or anything, but like what?
Well, I'm sure he makes you quite physically uncomfortable, as
Like-
in he
well,
beats the shit out of you
So
beforehand.
well, is he just like? Does he just use violence? Like, does he use mind games? Like,
Oh yeah, no,
I-
all
I'd
that. 'cause-
imagine-
I don't know. I'm thinking like I'm relating this to like the most recent Star Wars movies where like when Kylo Ren has oh my god, I can't remember her name, but he's got her in the chair and he's trying to use like mind control and stuff like that. Like, do they
Sure.
do anything like that?
Well, you'll
You
see
think?
here. You'll see here in a minute.
Yeah.
He does something kind of
Yeah.
strange.
So,
Watch and listen.
well,
We've barely started the story at this point.
Sure. No, I just want to know how he tortures people.
Let's find out.
You'll
this
see.
is-
Let's
this-
find out.
That's
this is
kind of
gonna-
the whole story, Trevor, is how he tortures Húrin.
Yes,
Literally.
the whole story is him
Oh.
torturing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
so this question is going to be the whole thing.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. It's
So-
going to be the whole thing.
I'm excited. Let's
Moving
go.
forward.
Let's go.
So as Melkor is trying to get this out of Húrin, Húrin says no, and he says to Melkor, "Blind you are, Morgoth Bauglir, and blind shall ever be, seeing only the dark. You know not what rules the hearts of men, and if you knew, you could not give it. But a fool is he who accepts what Morgoth offers. You will take first the price, and then withhold the promise. And I should get only death if I told you what you ask." And from there on, he continues to basically mock Melkor
to his fucking
face.
face.
And
yeah.
mind you, this is basically Satan incarnate. He is everything evil and makes everything evil in this world.
Yeah, and Húrin is just like, fuck you, man.
Well, that's all Melkor wants, right? Is Discord.
That's all he wants is, yeah.
Oh,
is-
and he's
And he
getting
gets it.
He's
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
it.
Oh, I'm sure he gets it, but he just wants Discord.
So
'Cause
Melkor
he's a Maiar.
yeah. No, he's
No.
a Valar.
He's a Valar.
Oh, he's a Valar.
He's the highest tier.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he's one of the Valar.
Aside from Iluvatar, the one god himself, he is
Right,
Melkor is of the highest tier.
And he's the mightiest
one of the
of
vice
them.
presidents, if you will.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So as punishment, Melkor is obviously upset about this. He takes Húrin, and they go up to the peaks of Thangorodrim being 3 mountain peaks at the top of Angband, the Melkor's holdout.
Okay.
He makes a chair of stone there for Húrin, and puts Húrin on the stone chair and puts a curse on him so he can not only not leave this chair, but Húrin also has far sight, so he can see everything that's going on over the land right now. And Melkor says to him, "I am cursing you, your wife, and all of your descendants, and you will sit here and watch their lives and how my hate follows."
Yeah. He's basically like, putting a curse on everybody, and you're gonna sit and watch, dude,
And that is the last we actually hear from Húrin for quite some time.
for quite some time.
So he literally because Melkor cannot get what he wants. He's inflicting like one of the worst kinds of pain you could on somebody.
Oh, Melkor has
and that's knowledge of despair.
Exactly, Trevor. And knowledge is like what we learned from Tolkien. Knowledge is kind of a double-edged sword, and you kind of see that.
Oh
here.
yeah, no, it always is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, Melkor has other plans to get what he wants anyway, but now he's just hell-bent on destroying this man and his family.
Just fucking up the House of Hador.
So now we've got Húrin, who's gone. They don't know, after the battle, no one knows what happens to Húrin. They assume that Húrin's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And back in Dorloman, which is where Húrin and his family are from. This is where we first meet Túrin as a child. Túrin being Húrin's son, the only son.
What is the timeline we got going here?
This, you can consider this directly after the battle.
Well,
Let's-
there's a little bit of the story when Túrin is a child before the battle, and then his dad goes off to war.
Okay, so like children of Húrin at this point. So like Húrin is captured and stuff. So most of this stuff takes place from the like kind of the early stages of all his children's lives, or
Correct.
Are some of
Correct,
them?
yeah.
They're
Yes.
children. They are, in fact, very young
They're
children.
very young.
They're all really young.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, he leaves behind Túrin and a younger sister.
Are there only two?
Yeah.
So children of Húrin is really just after two kids.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, one of them is named Lalaith. They call her Laughter. She actually dies early on in the story. She dies of a plague
That was a result of
Angband.
the Battle of Unnumbered Tears.
Yeah, it came from Angband, and it killed her. And Túrin actually got really sick, too, and it almost killed him, but it didn't.
So this could have been less sad.
Well, it's starting off...
It's not going to get any less
It's
sad.
not going to get any less
I mean,
sad.
like if they died early, there'd be less despair to go around, right?
I guess.
Yes.
I guess you could look at it that way.
And so Túrin actually, Húrin left. Also, his wife Morwen was pregnant when he left. So there's also another baby girl that's soon to come.
Yes, so basically when all is said and done, Húrin is stuck on Thangarodrim. The battle is done. They think everyone's gone and dead. You've still got Túrin as a child at home with his mother, Morwen. And like we mentioned, Túrin's younger sister, Lalaith, has now died of a plague. That was actually the result of the major battle that just happened. Now, obviously, things are not good at this point after the battle was lost. Some of those evil men that betrayed the Union...
The Easterlings.
Yeah, so the Easterlings, the evil men that betrayed the good folks of the battle, actually came and took Dorloman for themselves.
Yeah, they were given Dorloman as a price, basically, for betraying.
Right. So where this was normally, the land of the House of Hador, a peaceful place, now the evil men, the Easterlings, have now come and taken it and enslaved the House of Hador. And Túrin's mother, Morwen, hides him. Doesn't want him to get killed. Doesn't want him to become a thrall.
Mm-hmm.
By the time Túrin is, I think it's 16. Is that so?
He's 8 years old when she sends him away.
Oh, excuse me, half
Yeah.
that. So when he's 8 years old, she finally sends him off out of Dorloman because she doesn't want him around. She sends him down to Doriath.
Doriath.
Being the Sindarin kingdom of elves that try to stay out of everything related to Morgoth. So that's a pretty good place to send him. They've got the girdle of Melian keeping out evil. That's a pretty good place to send your son.
Mm-hmm. And
So
this is like one of the first sad moments of Túrin's life because he gets sent away, and away from his mother and his soon-to-be-born sister.
Right. He doesn't understand quite everything that's
why
going
he
on.
has to go. He just knows he has to.
And after he leaves and goes to Doriath, his second sister is born, so he never got to meet her. But nonetheless, he goes to Doriath, and King Thingol there accepts him graciously and fosters him almost as a son. And he grows there. And by the time, here's where he turns 16. By the time he turns 16, they allow him to start going out and start hunting with some of the elves and
on
such.
the marches of Doriath.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And fighting some of the orcs, because obviously they've got orc problems now that Melkor won that war.
Mm-hmm. There's just orcs running around all over the place, and this is where we meet Beleg for the first. This is when Beleg becomes friends. Beleg Cuthalion becomes friends with.
Yeah.
Why is he important?
So one of the main characters
He's-
in this story is going to be an elf known as Beleg Strongbow, also called Beleg Cuthalion.
So Strongbow.
He's the
Strongbow,
reason why,
yes,
yeah.
the cider. We're drinking Cuthalion.
We're
folks.
drinking Cuthalion
Cheers.
cider. Cheers.
So Beleg Strongbow is a very good friend, actually, to Turin. When Turin is old enough, they finally allow him to start going out on hunts with Beleg Strongbow, going out and hunting for food, getting rid of orcs, because there's obviously orc problems everywhere. And he grows quite strong and becomes a very good hunter.
Well, and he's fucking huge.
Turin is not like his father, Húrin.
No, he is like the men of Hador. He's a perfect blend of Morwen, his mother, is said to be the most beautiful of all the mortal women that has ever lived, and she's of the house of Beor, and she married into the house of Hador, who are huge men of Hithlum.
So these are all
we've
different.
got big, beautiful people.
Yes.
So yeah, Turin is supposed to be an incredibly beautiful man.
He's a very large person. He's very strong and very swift. He's not just clunky. He's a very swift guy. He's got very dark, sleek hair.
So when you say large, we're talking like 6'5", buff as fuck.
Right.
Yeah, like well over 6 feet tall, very strong, a very big man.
He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a
Yes,
monster.
he's
and
a brute.
he's taught to fight by the elves of Doriath.
Which, if anyone's going to teach you how to fight,
Yeah,
the elves
r-
know what's
right,
up.
the elves know what's up. You said they're taking on Balrogs, so
Right. Yeah. Now, as he's being raised in Doriath, there's also a character in Doriath who's on the king's court. He's one of the king's advisors. This guy's name is
Cyrus. And he is Cyrus is actually a green elf. He's living in Doriath for some reason, but he's not of the elves of Doriath, but he is a trusted advisor to King Thingol.
Cyrus.
yes,
Cyrus.
his name's Cyrus.
Cyrus.
And what you really need to know is Cyrus doesn't like him. Cyrus doesn't like
he
Turin.
really hates Turin.
He doesn't like him for a host of reasons. I mean, mainly you could consider it a race thing. He doesn't like that he's a man, and
Yeah.
that King Thingol is so favorable of this random man that.
So
came to
he's
live with the elves.
jealous?
You might say that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they get into a lot of issues because King Thingol really likes Turin and
Mhm.
takes his word as well as advice. And
And one day Turin's coming back from the north marches of Doriath, and he's been in the wild for a long time, so his gear is all fucked up, his hair is long, his beard is unkempt, So he's sort of a man at this point, but not fully a man. So he looks really raggedy. And so Cyrus, they're sitting there drinking and eating, and Cyrus says something along the lines of, if the women of Hithlum are as unkempt as the men, do they run as deers clad only in their hair?
I mean,
And that pisses off Turin.
That'd be kind of hot, right?
Yeah,
It's
well, Turin takes
obviously meant to be insulting.
yes,
Right.
Turin takes great offense to it, and actually picks up a drinking goblet, throws it at his fucking face,
Hits him.
and breaks his jaw.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Breaks his jaw.
breaks his jaw.
He's
Okay.
like we said, Turin's a big guy.
Turin's he's a big guy, he's angry.
And he stands up for what he believes in.
Yeah.
All right.
So you make a crack about the women of Hithlum, he's
Yeah.
gonna break your fucking jaw for it.
Oh yeah, and he does.
And he does.
God, I want to know what happens when you make worse than a crack.
You'll see.
Well, so eventually this leads to a scuffle between the two, where Turin ends up legitimately, accidentally killing the man.
He kills
Oh
him.
yeah, this is actually
Hold on.
really
Kills Sirius?
So
Yes.
Turin.
Cyrus.
What happens is this is a really funny story actually.
Oh.
So Turin is coming out of he's coming out of like a building one day, and Cyrus jumps on him, tries to kill him, and then Turin obviously easily overpowers this dude, and then strips him naked of all his gear, and he's like, "Run, bitch!" And he starts poking him in the butt with his sword until he runs, and he basically gets to this ravine where it's too far to jump, but the guy's too scared to realize that, and he jumps and gets killed on the rocks.
So Turin didn't tell him, you need to jump or I'll poke you in the ass.
No, he was literally just trying to terrify him.
Right, because the guy's been a major dick. Believe me, it's been deserved up until this point.
Yeah, he's basically trying to humiliate him, and it goes wrong, and he gets killed.
So at this point, Turin knows that someone has died, and he genuinely believes that the elves are going to blame him for it. He definitely, even though it was an accident and the guy jumped and ended up dying, he genuinely believes that the elves of Doriath are going to blame him for it, and they're going to hate him for it.
Total accident, though.
Total accident. And before he even gives the elves time to consider the situation, Turin basically, I don't want to say he gets scared, but he leaves.
Yeah, he leaves.
He doesn't
like,
want to deal with it.
They're basically like, we have to go talk to the king about this. And Turin is a prideful guy.
He's very prideful.
He's very prideful. And he says, he's basically like, no, they'll never understand. I'm not one of you guys. I'll be killed for this, or I'll be captured for this. And I'm not going down that way. So he leaves Doriath.
He leaves altogether. And when he leaves, he ends up going out into the wild. And, I mean, granted, he is a very capable man. And he ends up coming across a band of outlaws, a band of men, on the outskirts of Doriath. I think it's in the right outside the forest of Brethel, right?
Right.
Brethel?
And Brethel is
yeah.
it's another location. It's a forest very close to the kingdom of Doriath.
Is it magical or cool in any way?
No, it's inhabited by the men of the House of Haleth.
Mm-hmm.
A forest inhabited by
Yeah,
them?
the elves.
Do they have like
gave
a kingdom in there or what?
the- It's
They have a lordship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The elves kind of gave this section of the forest to them, like, we'll let you live here if you want to help us defend the border on that.
Do they
end.
have like a
That's
like a
the thing.
legit settlement?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
but the thing to realize is that the men in the first age have no kings. They have lords because their kings are the High King of the Noldor.
Sure.
Right.
So
I
like
guess-
they worship they worship. They pledge fealty to the kings of the Noldor.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of thinking like you're saying forest. The only forest kingdom like things that I've ever seen is like for the elves. You know?
Yeah,
Right.
but
You
this
know,
is-
like
yeah,
where
this
they
is
go
a
to the
forest.
And
where
generally, these forests would kind of belong to the elves. It's kind of on the outskirts of their land. So the elves graciously let the men live there if the men agree to kind of like team up with them and defend their borders.
Sure. I guess
Anyway.
what I'm getting at is like, is their kingdom inside of this forest? Like, one is like it's like a legitimate settlement. They've got buildings and stuff. And then like two, is it as cool as say Rivendell?
Oh God, no.
No. Well,
No.
obviously it's not as elegant, but I mean
No,
like
I mean it's probably a bunch of wooden
So,
houses and shit.
like
the men,
shacks and
okay,
stuff?
I want to just say that obviously the men's dwellings in this forest are nothing like Rivendell. However,
No, they're woodsmen. Like they
You're
live
right,
in log
they're
cabins
woodsmen.
and stuff,
However,
yeah.
the kingdom of Doriath in general, their capital Menegroth is more than you could ever imagine
Cooler-
Rivendell would ever be.
cooler than
It's
Rivendell.
way cooler than Rivendell.
So these guys are cooler, but they are choosing to not be as.
Well, they're not allowed to go live with the elves.
Right. Well, they wouldn't live with the elves, but you're saying this other kingdom, that's a kingdom of men, right?
Yes, so the men are just living as woodsmen in shacks.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not super fancy. They just like to.
Sure. So I just like knowing kind of like what they're working with, you know?
Yeah, and so he joins up with this group of outlaws outside the forest of Brethil, and he starts calling himself Nathan, which means the wronged.
Because at this point, he genuinely believes he's been wronged by this, the series of events that happened with this elf that accidentally got killed. This elf was being a dick to him, and then when he finally confronted the guy accidentally went and ran off a cliff. And now he genuinely believes that the elves of Doriath don't like him, so he feels as though he's been wronged.
Okay.
Now, during this time, he actually becomes the leader of this group of outlaws and actually stops them from doing some of the bad outlaw things. They stop pillaging and raping.
Yeah, he kind of turns their energy toward like the orcs
Yeah, because
Like-
God knows there are plenty of orcs to be killed
to
at
be
this
killed
point.
and plundered.
So by the time he becomes the leader of this band of outlaws, they actually end up going around and just killing orcs, and it's actually a pretty good thing. Now, back in Doriath, they're trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, they're basically holding and Thingol hears that he killed. That Cyrus was killed by Turin, and he's like, well, I have no choice but to banish Turin forever and all this stuff. But Beleg actually comes back with a witness who knew Turin as a child. She actually taught him how to speak Elvish and stuff like that. Taught him in the forest.
She happened to be in the forest when this
and when this whole thing
accidental
happened, yeah.
killing went down. She saw it.
Nice coincidence.
Nice coincidence.
Yeah, well,
It's
she kind of loved Turin. Like, she kind of fell in love with him a little bit. So she kind of followed him around, and he kind of forgot all about her, actually,
sad.
which is sad.
That sounds like natural love to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they have a witness for the king, so the king understands that it was an accident, and eventually the king comes to the point where he probably would pardon Turin if he were around, but Turin's gone at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Beleg, being very close to Turin, Beleg more or less helped raise Turin for a good portion of time. he obtained leave from Thingol to go and find Turin because he loves Turin and he wants to bring him back and wants to make sure he's okay. King Thingol says, that's okay. You go ahead, Beleg, go find this guy. And Beleg does go out, and he finds Turin and the group of outlaws on the outskirts of the forest. And ultimately, he couldn't convince Turin to come back, though. Turin's stubborn as hell.
He's very stubborn. But yeah, he decides not to go back to Doriath. So Beleg has no choice but to be like, all right, well, I tried. I guess I'll go tell Thingol you're not coming back.
So he goes back, and he tells Thingol what's going on. You know, I found him. This is what he's doing, but he won't come back. He's stubborn. And since we can't get him to come back to Doriath, Beleg is asking, hey, maybe I can just go and be with him and make sure he's okay and live with them. Will you give me leave to go live with Turin and these outlaws? And eventually Thingol actually does say yes. He gives him his blessing, and not only that, but he kind of helps prepare Beleg. He gives Beleg a sword, and he lets him choose.
Yeah.
And in King Thingol's hoard of stuff, he's got some really cool shit.
Yeah, he does.
He's got something special, a special sword called Angelikel. And Angelikel is a very special black sword. It is black. It's one of two black swords that was made by a dark elf called Aol. He was a really good smith. But
black sword.
The sword is black.
Just the color of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the blade itself is black because it is smithed from iron that, quote, fell from the heavens as a flaming star. So basically,
it's
it was
meteoric iron.
Yeah, it was a sword made of meteorite metal, and it is known to cleave through anything. It cleaves
all
through
earth
iron.
down level, or what does it say? All earth delved metals.
Yes. So this sword will cut through any earth metals. It'll cut through any armor. It'll cut through anything, which I assume also means mithril, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Which is just a whole new level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this sword is something else. So anyway, Beleg chooses this sword to take with him, and then King Thingol's like, here, while you're at it, take the dragon helm of the House of Hador. This belongs to Turin. This is the helm of his house.
Yeah, we're not trying to keep it. Yeah.
Right, at least take it to him if you're going to be with him and let him use it. And so he does. So Beleg leaves with this amazing sword and this dragon helm, and re-meets up with Turin and the outlaws.
This is the same helm we were talking about earlier.
It is.
Yes.
It's the helm that was too big for Huor to wear, or Húrin to wear, because Húrin was too small a guy.
Which is why it got left at home and why Turin has it now. Because otherwise it would have been captured with Húrin.
Right, because he wouldn't have been wearing it anymore.
Right.
So what's cool, other than that the sword can cut through everything, is there anything else that really makes it stand out?
It's black.
It's black, and there's something. This sword does one thing that no other sword has ever done in Tolkien, and we will get to that.
Does it destroy a ring of power?
Yeah.
No.
So at the point when
I know
Beleg,
we're not even at that age yet, but
so at the point when Beleg chooses this sword, Melian is actually there during this scene when he chooses to take this sword from Thingol, and Melian has a very ominous prophecy about the sword. She says, quote, "There is malice in this sword. The dark heart of the smith that made it still dwells within it. It will not love the hand it serves, neither will it abide with you very long." So she's like, really, you don't want this thing. Like, this sword's pretty cool, but bad news bears. Like, you actually don't want anything to do with this sword. But he takes it anyway because he's like, well, this is really cool. It's going to be useful.
So this sword doesn't, they're saying it's got a sentient enough to not want to stay with an owner.
Yes. So this sword has some form of sentience.
Yes.
A smart sword.
A smart sword.
Kind of like my phone, right?
Exactly.
Now, when Beleg finally goes back to Turin again and meets up with him and his band of outlaws, it just so happens around this time, the band of outlaws comes across a strange character whose name is Mime.
Mime, the petty dwarf.
The petty dwarf. Mind you, he's not just a regular dwarf like you'd see from anywhere else who's really good with smithing and such. He's a petty dwarf. He's kind of like a feral dwarf.
Yeah, they're basically feral dwarves. They said...
Imagine him more like a gnome almost.
Yeah, well, they said that they were like basically... They were probably descendants of people that were like cast out from dwarven cities and stuff like that.
Yeah, like dwarven exiles.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a petty dwarf who's kind of a scavenger and lives on the land. Now, this band of outlaws, they're still outlaws. They're not the best of folks. They find this dwarf, and they capture him, and they try to get stuff out of him, right? They try to figure out where he lives, if he's got any goods and whatnot.
And they run into 3 dwarves, and they shoot an arrow at one of them, and the other 2, so the 2 of them disappear, and they capture Mim.
Mim not being the one that Mim was okay. They shot one of the ones that ran away.
Yep.
Who happened to be Mim's sons. Now, basically in exchange for Mim's life, now that they have him captured, Mim begs for his life, and he says, I will allow you to come live with me in my secret lair, my secret abode. And Mim happens to live in a place called the Aman Rud.
Aman Rud, which means the Red Hill.
The Red Hill. It's a random, really big hill in the middle of just fields, and on top there's some sort of red vegetation that grows, and it just glows red.
I always figured it was red, like the soil or something.
You think
red.
it was the soil? I guess
I
imagined it was.
soil.
I always imagined it was some kind of vegetation on top. But either way,
it's
was
the
very
top
red.
of it is red.
I was
Bottom
thinking as soon as you just said this, like flat everything, and then there's this huge hill with all this green and red on top,
Yeah,
just
basically.
this awesome contrast. It's beautiful.
It is really cool, actually. There's some artist renditions of it. We should throw some pictures up. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, the cover art on the Unfinished Tales, at least the version that I have, is the Amun Rud.
Right, yeah. We'll throw it up. It's a pretty cool picture. But Mim is like, I've got a secret abode here in this hill. There's secret pathways to get up to it. Nobody really knows how to get there, and sure as shit, it's actually a really cool hideout lair. And he offers this lair to Turin and his outlaws to stay there.
Yeah, and they call it Bar and Dunwaith, which means the House of Ransom.
Ransom?
Ransom, yeah, because he basically puts it up as ransom
For his life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And which kind of sucks is the arrow. Turns out the arrow that they shot, it hit one of Mim's sons, and the night that they held him captive, they held him away from his house. Basically, his son died during that time.
Yeah, waiting for his father to come aid him.
Yeah.
So they ended up accidentally killing. Well, I wouldn't say accidentally. They killed his son.
Yeah, they
That
definitely
is-
killed his son.
That's a
And
sad
so
moment.
when Mim takes him to their house to here's this house that I'm giving you for my life, and then he finds out that
and
they
then here's
actually
my
killed
dead
his son,
Yeah.
he screams and he tears his beard. And Turin,
Ouch.
yeah, no, that's
Ouch.
something that
Dwarves
the
do
dwarves
that when they're very upset. They tear out their beards.
Yeah, they tear their beards. That's how you know when a dwarf is very upset. They will yell and they'll tear their beards.
and they just make you more angry, though.
Right.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
Turin
yeah.
being a decent guy, understands that this wasn't meant to happen. He wasn't actually trying to kill the guy's son, and that he's helping him out, giving him his house. So he says, I will pay you in the way of dwarves. For your loss, I will, treat you with gold and jewels. And then Mim is like, you speak like a high dwarf. You have cooled my anger. And he continues to allow them to stay there. And for a time,
Hold on. For a life, they
Yeah.
paid gold.
it's a dwarf, dude. The
Yeah,
dwarves.
dwarves.
Yeah, it dwarves, man.
It doesn't sit right with me, but all right.
It wasn't 100% payment, but he was like, it's cooled my
It's a
anger.
start. Yeah.
It's good enough.
Yeah, just because the fact that he was like, if I ever come into wealth, I will give you some. Just the fact that he said that and swore an oath to it, was pretty big of him. So Mim was like, yeah, you sound like a dwarf lord of old. And Mim kind of had a good relationship with Turin. He told him a lot of stories and stuff. And the thing that Turin never did was he never rebuked him when he spoke ill of the Eldar. When he talked shit about elves.
Because
Would he normally?
dwarves and elves, not the best of friends.
Okay.
Well, he would normally, yeah, because he's an elf friend. Like the House of Hador, they swear fealty to the kings of the Noldor, and he was raised by elves.
A dwarf?
No, we're talking about Turin here.
No,
Oh,
Turin is raised
okay.
by elves.
Yeah, so
I
where,
was-
where Turin is normally friendly with elves, Turin kind of holds his tongue as Mim talks shit about the elves.
Gotcha.
So at this point, they're living there in Mim's secret abode, and the band of outlaws is still going around and killing orcs, but now they have this secret home that they can retreat to all the time.
Hell yeah,
And
it's
they
pretty
become
sweet.
the area around there, the countryland around there becomes renowned as the land of bow and helm, also called Dor Cuarthol. Did I say that right?
Cuarthol, yeah.
Dor Cuarthol, the
Dor
land of bow and helm.
Cool.
because it's known that there's a band of outlaws with somebody who's really good at being a bowman, a.k.a. Beleg Strongbow,
Strongbow.
and some guy that wears this crazy helm, the Dragon Helm of Dorloman. And at this point, Turin starts to call himself Gorthal, the Dreadhelm, because orcs fear them.
Dreadhelms?
Dreadhelm.
Yeah, the orcs are straight up terrified by Turin's because it's got like a dragon and shit on it.
It's a dwarvish helmet, so it's
yeah.
pretty intimidating.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Anyway, so they do a good job of clearing out dwarves around here, and they're living relatively decent lives at this point.
Clearing out dwarves?
I'm sorry, clearing out orcs, rather.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for correcting me.
It's like,
that would have been weird.
That would have
Whoa.
made any sense. Yeah, so they're going around, they're clearing out all the orcs, which are an obvious problem at this point in time. And it becomes known around the countryside that this is the land of bow and helm, and if you're an orc and you try to go here, you're going to get killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have this little heyday for a while until Meme one day is out gathering roots or whatever the fuck Meme does, and he's captured by some orcs. And he says that he'll give up this band of outlaws, the bow and helm guys, and he's like, I'll give up these guys, but you can't kill Turin. He doesn't call him Turin, but he's like, you can't kill their leader, basically, the Dreadhelm, Gorthal. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, all right.
Right.
That sounds...
Yeah, so Meme being the petty dwarf continues to be pretty petty, and he just is like, oh, yes, yeah, if you don't kill me, I'll give you these guys.
Yeah, he's a little shit.
And so...
He's capitalism at its finest.
Exactly. Exactly, man. Hitting the nail on the head. So that leads to the, inevitable downfall of Turin and his band of outlaws. The orcs storm Amanrud, and eventually the battle leads all the way to the top of the hill because they're trying to get away from everything, and all of Turin's men are just completely slaughtered around him. Now, Beleg survives. Beleg is... was he part of the battle, or did he get away?
Who's this guy? Belland?
Beleg. Strongbow.
Strongbow.
Beleg Cuthalion. Now, Beleg Cuthalion survives this assault, and after everything is said and done, so the orcs have killed all of Turin's men, and they take Turin, and they start, obviously, taking him back to Angband. Turin's pretty much fucked at this point. So Beleg, being the very good friend that he is to Turin, because they're like best of buds at this point, Beleg Strongbow and Túrin Turambar. And so Beleg follows this band of orcs to go save Turin as they travel north towards Angband.
Yeah, and he finds up against a tree, he finds somebody who he thought was dead.
Yeah, Beleg finds someone else along the way.
But that turns out that's Gwyndor. Gwyndor has escaped from Angband. He was captured during the Nirnaeth. He was one of the lords of Nargothrond.
He's an elf of Nargothrond, so he knows who he is. And everyone thought that Gwyndor was dead, but here he finds Gwyndor, who happened to escape from Angband, and they go together to go try to save Turin. Gwyndor is kind of a leader in that fact, because Gwyndor just escaped Angband. He pretty much knows the way back. Not that he wants to, but they go and they find this band of orcs, and they find Turin, who has just been having a real bad time.
Yeah, they've been torturing the shit out of him.
They've been torturing Turin this whole time, the orcs have.
They find him tied up to a tree, and the tree is littered with knives.
So they were throwing knives at him?
They were fucking throwing knives at him, yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, Turin is almost just delirious at this point. Like, he's just been forcibly marched and tortured for, days on end at this point.
But still alive.
Because he's a badass. Now, one night, Gwyndor and Beleg, that is, they finally catch up with the group of orcs, and they get up to where Turin is.
Yeah, and Beleg, he snipes all the wolf sentinels.
With a bow?
With a bow.
Because he's Beleg Strongbow, Cuthalion.
Snipes them all.
With his strong bow?
With his strong-ass bow.
And, so he eventually comes up to find Turin, and they basically pick him up, and they get the fuck out of there. They take him off. They can only get him a little way, because, again, Turin is huge.
He's huge.
So it's hard for, one of these elves just escaped from Angband. He's obviously not very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then Beleg's super strong, but at the same time, he's not going to carry this huge fucking, 7-foot tall dude.
So they get a little ways away, and they cut his bonds. Now, at this point, Turin has still been kind of almost unconscious up until this point. So when they finally cut Turin's bonds,
The blades.
it's
slips.
dark outside, it's raining, it's thundering, and Turin kind of loses his shit. He doesn't know who this is. He just thinks the orcs are still here to just
Right.
fuck with him.
Yeah, because he goes to he takes Anglekel out, and he goes to cut the bonds off of his legs and arms, and he accidentally cuts Turin's foot open a little bit with the blade, just a little.
Yeah, Beleg accidentally cut Turin while he was trying to free him. So obviously Turin thinking, these are the orcs. They're here to fuck with me. They're already cutting up my foot. Turin, being now free of his bonds, grabs the sword and drives it straight through Beleg's chest, his best friend.
And yeah, so he hits the ground.
Before Turin even knows what's going on, Beleg
Yeah.
is dead on the ground, and then
and
they
he kills him out of reflex, essentially.
it's like reflex, like he's freaking the fuck out. And then they describe the scene. There's like it's raining, and there's a
Yeah.
flash of lightning, and
And
Turin
he sees the face of his best friend laying down dead underneath his own sword.
and he just
loses it, man.
goes into an absolute just delirious depression. And at this point, Gwyndor's sitting here like, what the fuck is
Gwyndor
going
just
on?
saw all this happen.
And Gwyndor's like, oh, okay, so we've got to get going now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of bad people coming now.
And
so we got to go.
yeah, so this is one of the real bad things that happens to Turin. He kills his best friend. And it's just like a series upon series of unfortunate events at this point.
Moment of silence for Beleg.
Let's
Take a
drink
swig.
a swig of strongbow for
Take a
Beleg.
swig.
Now that we've lost Beleg.
I'm just gonna say he deserved it.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Nobody's ever deserved
He
it
was
less.
literally like the most loyal of friends.
Yeah.
Too loyal.
So Gwyndor and Turin, they leave, and they start journeying south, and they ended up at the pools of
Ivrin.
Ivrin,
Yeah. Pools of Ivrin.
and it's supposed to be kind of a magical place, and there Turin's finally able to kind of release. And he just weeps and weeps and weeps and weeps. But doing that, he's released from his madness, and he kind of comes to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so essentially after that they leave and they go to Nargothrond.
Yeah,
He
because that's
takes
where
them.
Gwyndor's from. So
That's where
Gwyndor's
Gwyndor's
well,
from.
like, at this point, let's go back to Nargothrond. That's where I am. We can be safe there for a while.
And yeah, so Gwyndor takes him to Nargothrond. And the thing is, so Gwyndor knows who Turin is. Beleg told him he was
Right.
looking for Túrin, son of Húrin. But nobody else knows that. And so they get to Nargothrond, and he doesn't give his real name, obviously. He says he's Agarwain, son of Ulmarth, which means bloodstained son of ill fate.
Yeah, he doesn't want anyone to know who he is, but he's still a dramatic motherfucker, so he's going to give himself a dramatic name.
Yeah, and he has his sword reforged in Nargothrond.
Right, so while there, he takes his badass sword, and he has it reforged, which I guess I'm not quite sure what that means, but it makes it...
Well, it said in the book, it said when he took it from Beleg that it was blunt. Like the blade wasn't sharp for whatever reason.
Okay,
Probably because it just killed its master. Maybe.
that could be it.
Yeah.
So at that point, he has it reforged, and he also renames it. He renames it Gorthang, Iron of Death. And at this point, the Nargothronian smiths make it glow, which is kind of a Noldorian perk that they have on their
Yeah,
weapons.
For sure. Yeah, they're
Kind of
shit
like the way
glows.
Sting glows.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it glows around the edges with it shows with white fire, as they say.
So he gets all this sword reforged, and they kind of recoup themselves. He has a new name. Gwyndor's finally back to his home kingdom from being a slave in Angband. Nobody ever comes back from that. They didn't even recognize Gwyndor when he came back. Gwyndor's love interest, whose name is Finduilas, who's king...
Finduilas.
Yeah, who's daughter of the king at this point. She barely recognized him at this point. They were in love before Gwyndor got taken, and now she barely recognized him. And now he comes back with this guy named Argwen, son of Umarth, and she actually starts to get kind of a thing for this guy. She starts to have a thing for Turin. Obviously not good for Gwyndor. He gets quite jealous.
And he also he refuses to call himself by his right name, so he calls himself Túrin, which means the secret.
Right. At one point, Findulas tries to confront him. Obviously, your name isn't Bloodstained, son of ill fate. What's your name? And he says, my name is Túrin. Or no, he wouldn't tell her. So she's like, I'll call you Túrin, the secret.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another name. This guy has more names than I think anyone else.
And then the people of Nargothrond also called him Edanidel, which means man-elf, because he was in the means and strength of a man but fought as an elf.
Yeah, he was very elf-like for a man because he was more or less raised by the elves. Now, obviously, getting frustrated with the fact that his love, Findulas, is now falling in love with Turin, Gwyndor gets pretty upset, and he gets pissed, and he reveals Turin's true identity to Findulas, and out of anger and sadness and whatnot, and eventually she tells that to her father, who's the king of Nargothrond, King Orodreth. And as soon as King Orodreth finds out who Turin is, well, it's a big deal.
He's stoked, yeah.
Yeah, he's stoked. He's like, well, we got, like, the leader of the House of Hador, who is not only alive, but here.
Yeah, here in Nargothrond.
And he becomes one of the king's most trusted advisors.
Yeah, and he kind of like takes over the military.
He becomes well loved.
Just like overnight?
Not overnight. He lives here for quite some time, years and years. And
so he lived under his aliases for years.
He rarely goes by his real name.
Right.
Like one of the only times he goes by his real name is when they're doing the bow and helm thing. He goes by Turin, I think.
I think so.
His
band of outlaws.
No, later on. Later on, he goes as Turin, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So nonetheless, he becomes a pretty big figure in Nargothrond. He's a big advisor, and he's trying to help them make the kingdom of Nargothrond a prominent kingdom. Nargothrond, one of their tactics is kind of secrecy. They're more into like spies and like staying out of sight. The elves stay in the woods, and they're not really big into confrontation. Well, obviously Turin is a very prideful guy, and he
likes to fight out in the open.
Yeah, he's very upfront. So he's like, well, let's make our kingdom known. Let's build a big bridge out front of our gates over that river that we've got out front of the kingdom, and let it be known that this is our kingdom. And he, like I said, he's very prideful. So important point being, they build a bridge right outside the doors of
big,
Nargothrond.
Cool bridge.
A very wonderful bridge. It's beautiful. It leads right over the river that was originally kind of their moat, kind of their protection.
Is this like a big stable bridge, or
yes,
it's a big stone bridge. It's a big stone bridge. They call it the Bridge of Turin, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very beautiful. It goes over originally what they used as a protective moat, but he's like, why do we need this? It makes it difficult. Let's be proud of who we are and make a bridge so we can get back and forth. And they do that. Now, at one point, they get a couple of wandering elves into Nargothrond. Their names are Gelmir and Arminas. And they were family of the original king of Nargothrond, King Finrod Felagund, who died in the story of Beren and Luthien that we talked about.
Last episode.
Yeah, one of our last episodes. And they come in one evening and they bring warning to the current king. They say, hey, we are elves that have been living with none other than Círdan the shipwright.
Círdan!
For a number of years, who has the favor of Ulmo, the Valar of the seas and water. Ulmo is also kind of like a Prometheus in that he's Ulmo of all the Valar is very friendly with men and elves. He wants to help them. So Ulmo gives warning to these two to Círdan, who then transfers this message to the two elves who bring it to Nargothrond, saying, "Hey, there is something bad coming your way." And the elves come to Nargothrond and they say, "Hey, King Orodreth, you need to know that there's a band, a great host of orcs and other evil creatures up north in the pass of Sirion, and you should get rid of this bridge because this is not doing you any favors."
Right. This is basically, it's going to make it easier for these people to siege your castle.
And they'll know where you're at because there's a bridge leading to
Right,
you.
exactly. So much for secrecy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they sort of abandoned that when they built the bridge.
They did.
Right.
Turin made them abandon it as a policy. Yeah,
Mhm.
essentially.
Yeah, they were all down for secrecy, and then Turin's too proud, so he made them make that. But Turin, once again, being one of the major influences on the king, one of the king's major advisors, was like, no, we're not getting rid of my bridge. Turin's a proud guy. So they ultimately don't heed the warning of these elves, and they send the elves on their way. And Turin's like, well, now that we know that there's all these evil folks, let's go attack them instead. And Turin leads an attack. So they leave Nargothrond with a host of elves, and they march to this army of orcs and evil creatures that they were warned about. And it didn't go well.
No, they get totally fucked. They get totally beaten down.
Because little did they know, Glaurung the dragon was
father
with
of
this
dragons.
host. Glaurung, the father of all dragons, was with this host and absolutely destroyed. One of the reasons why Turin was one of the only survivors of this raid was because he had the dragon helm.
Which, yeah, they're super good at dealing with dragon's fire.
Right. Yeah, dwarves
they're
and
essentially-
That's
dwarves.
just a hat.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
It's a helm.
they make these helms in the fashion of their forging helmets. You know what I mean? So, like, they use them while they're working the forges. So, like, they're really good at withstanding heat.
Well,
The
sure,
dwarves,
but doesn't
that
that
is.
just mean
The
that
dwarves, yeah.
that his head is protected? I mean,
Well, he's able to, like, see and fight still, essentially.
Right. So
Because
rather
your
than
hair
being
and shit is
blinded
going to
and
burn out. You know what I mean? It's going to distract you.
so
you know?
it
Sure, so he-
ultimately the helm is one of the things that helps him survive.
so he otherwise would be
He'd be
getting
toast.
burned.
Yeah, he would otherwise be dead just like everyone else in his band.
So really, he's like this smoldering charcoal of a human being, but with a nice,
Right.
nice head.
He
Nice
definitely
shiny helmet,
right. He
yeah.
definitely they did not win the battle. He was down. And this band of orcs and evil creatures and fucking Glaurung the dragon,
They're now headed right back toward Nargothrond.
they book it to Nargothrond. And
Oh, sure, they just defeated the main force.
right. And so the folks in Nargothrond are like, "Oh shit, this dragon's coming. Let's get rid of the bridge.
Get the bridge.
Get rid of the bridge. We
What is
can't."
a bridge gonna do against a dragon?
No.
Well, the thing is, the bridge is going to lead the dragon right into the doors of Felagund. So they were
Right.
like, let's destroy the bridge at least, so the dragon will have a harder time getting
Right.
here.
But they couldn't.
But they couldn't because they made it too damn well.
The bridge was too well
fucking
made.
elves, they fucking made it to the Noldor,
This
man.
bridge is too badass.
Yeah, it's too good.
It's a hindrance.
Right. So ultimately, it's the pride of Turin being the downfall of Nargothrond. The dragon comes, books it over the bridge, and just busts through the doors, and Nargothrond is completely sacked.
And now all right. So this whole time, Húrin is witnessing.
Watching
So
everything.
How much is he actually witnessing though? Because
Everything.
because Turin's not at Nargothrond anymore,
He sees everything.
but
so
he still sees it.
Morgoth cursed him with far sight. He can see everything that's going on.
Oh, literally everything, not just what's happening with his children.
Right.
No,
Okay.
literally everything that's
Okay,
happening.
but his focus is obviously
his
gonna be
focus
his
is,
children.
yeah. I mean, you would want to see your family.
Right. The point
Right,
is
right,
to
right.
see his family get tortured.
Right. What
and
other story
he's-
would be
he's seeing
important at
this.
this point?
Yeah.
He's seeing the pride of his son be the downfall of an entire kingdom. He saw his son kill his best friend. He saw his son accidentally kill another elf so far. Like, he saw his son get captured by orcs.
Turin
It's-
doesn't really seem like such a good guy anymore.
See,
He's prideful.
He's a very complicated character, and he's my favorite character, Trevor. So, like, the thing is, he's very prideful, but at the same time, like, I don't know, man.
He's prideful and he's stubborn. So these are
he's
like
very stubborn.
these are
yeah.
two qualities that, when mixed together, do not produce good results.
Right, and it doesn't end well. So yeah, they've sacked the entire city, right? Pretty much everybody's being carted away as slaves.
If anyone hasn't been killed, they're slaves.
They're slaves now.
So,
and, Turin meets.
so
Glaurung.
Turin obviously runs back to Nargothrond too late. He gets there. Nargothrond has already been sacked, and they're leading a host of slaves out of Nargothrond, the orcs are, across the bridge to take him back to be just thralls and be tortured. And Turin comes up, and he's about to intervene, but sure as shit, who's there? Glaurung the dragon.
Glaurung.
And he runs right for Glaurung and lifts his sword, and then Glaurung looks at him right in the eyes, and he stops and freezes him. Glaurung has
Petrified him?
No, it's magic.
It's
It's
magic.
evil magic.
So,
But it's like petrification. Like he just stopped.
Yes,
stopped in his
yes.
tracks,
It's like a
right.
petrification
He
spell, and
Medusa'd
he gets
his
stuck.
ass.
And literally, they stand there with Turin holding his sword and Glaurung staring into his eyes as all of the people of Nargothrond that were captured get led away, including the king's daughter, Findulas, who ended up
Findulas.
falling in love with him. And she's screaming his name. She's screaming his name as they're taking her away, and he can't do anything.
he can't do anything.
So
about
not
it.
only is Húrin forced to watch this torture, but Turin is forced to similar fate during these events.
You know, for this short amount
for
of
this
time.
amount of time.
Yeah,
well,
he's
yeah,
frozen.
yeah. But I
He's
mean,
frozen
like this is like
temporarily.
right in front of him, so I feel like that's a lot more
Yeah.
intense.
So Glaurung actually places a spell on Turin, and he doesn't really place a spell so much as he deceives the shit out of him.
Yeah, he entrances him and deceives him and sows lies in his mind. And he basically tells him
that Marwen and Nienor, his sister, whom he hasn't even met yet, are thralls back in Dorloman, and they're
Mhm.
slaves of the Easterlings.
he's like, I know you're concerned about what's going on right now. Well met, son of Húrin.
yeah,
But back at your homeland, your mother and your new sister are slaves, and they cry and scream in pain. And because you've been such a good fight at this point, who's to say that us dragons don't have honor? I'm going to let you go and go save your family now if you never come back, basically.
mm-hmm.
And he tricks him using his evil magic. And by the time all of the slaves have left Nargothrond and there's no one left, he releases Turin, and Turin books it back to his homeland,
to Dorloman,
to Dorloman, to go save his mother
or so he thinks.
and his sister.
Yeah, he's on his way back there.
So he's under the dragon spell, just aimlessly running back to his homeland that he hasn't been to since he was 8. And the entire kingdom of Nargothrond is sacked, and the dragon has taken all of the people that are left.
And hey, guys, guess what? That's the end of part 1. That's where we're
going to leave you.
That's where we're gonna leave you. Turin is crazed and going back to his homeland.
So quick summary. This Húrin guy in the beginning is forced to watch the misfortune of his children.
Yes.
Right.
And so then Turin, through a series of rather unfortunate events, kills his best friend,
Rather.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Accidentally, supposedly, kills a dwarf, right?
Kills another elf.
Kills
earlier
an
than
elf.
that. Yep.
Kills an elf.
Mhm.
Doesn't push him, but gets him to jump into a
By accident, yeah.
a ravine, if you will. And then
His band of outlaws that he befriends gets killed.
through his crappy
All of them.
pride, he builds an unbreakable bridge.
Yes.
Basically, dooms an entire town, like an entire
whole kingdom of
stronghold
elves,
of
yeah.
people.
Yeah, he doesn't even heed a blatant warning.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like, and through this prize, like, oh, this would be a great idea. Let's go hit them, which normally would be a good idea. Let's hit them when they don't expect us. Gets wrecked. His town gets wrecked, and then he's tricked into going to supposedly saving his family.
Yeah, just run
Exactly.
off. Yeah.
That's evil magic if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what Glaurung.
I told you.
That's
I
what
told you
Glaurung
this
is
shit
all
gets
about.
thick, Trevor. This shit gets real thick.
You told me it gets sad. So far, it's not necessarily sad. It's just,
Oh, just wait,
it's
motherfucker.
like brutal at this point. It's
Just
like,
wait.
Well,
It's-
we're going to leave you folks at that.
Yeah.
I know this has been a bit of a long one, but we really appreciate you guys sticking through.
This is our favorite. This is my favorite story.
We love this
Yeah.
story so much.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Danny J. We're sitting in with Trevor Dunlap.
And this is Joel N.
And yeah, have a good one, guys.
As always, keep on Tolkien.
Aude and Tulaba.